Even though I have a crap ton of people who love me, who I get along with, who I care about very, very deeply, and that are always down to be with me and vice versa, that is not enough. There is a specific type of person you need in your life. I'm back from Korea, and I know that it hasn't been long for you guys, but it's been a while since I've recorded a video, and I'm back. I filmed my last episode before I left Korea, so I think it's been 4 weeks now, and today's episode is a little bit of a serious one, but I still wanted it to be kind of fun because I have some stories, and when it was happening to me, I did not think they were funny, but looking back on it, we can laugh. But at the time, I was a crying mess dealing with certain people. And now we're in a better place because I decided to let these people go. And I think in general, when it comes to choosing who you surround yourself with, I don't think a lot of people put as much thought and consideration as they should, when that is one of the biggest factors that can affect your life.
At 20, I worked at South Bay Cinemas, and I hung out with a bunch of guys just like you. And some girls there too. But it was a bunch of guys just like you. And then I stopped working at South Bay Cinema. Then I worked at Miller's Outpost and hung out with a bunch of guys just like you. And we did everything just like we do. We went to movies together. We went out and we dated amongst the girls there, everything. Yeah. Then I worked at Leisure Pizza for 4 years with a bunch of guys just like you. I wasted my life hanging out with a bunch of guys just like you. And they all go away at a certain point. And I realized this guy's kind of telling the truth.
I think we spend more time and energy thinking about whether or not to buy a certain item, to wear a certain piece of clothing, more than we do with choosing the people in our life. And we just kind of take it for granted that our time is more precious than it is, and that the people that you literally surround yourself with will make or break how you live your life. It will change what you decide to do in the future. It can also just change the way you see yourself. After many years of watching people mess me up, friendships, dating, family members, all of it, I have become a very intentional person because I watched myself become so confident around certain people because they uplifted me. And then certain people brought me down to my lowest of lows. I was humbled by certain people. And so I almost recognize the feeling very quickly when I'm surrounded by somebody who makes me feel less than I am, or makes me feel like I need to do more to be valuable or deserve a place at the table. And the moment I start feeling smaller than I've ever felt around somebody, I hear the sirens in my head and I'm like, so I wanted to talk about this more because I think all of you should be surrounding yourselves with people who uplift you. There's a specific type of person that I want to bring up because you can think to yourself, oh yeah, all of my friends love me, but it's a little bit more nuanced than that. And I want to be very clear about it so that you guys can be like, oh shit, actually I don't even have this person in my life, even though I have a crap ton of people who love me, who I get along with, who I care about very, very deeply, and that are always down to be with me and vice versa. That is not enough. There's a specific type of person you need in your life, and that person is the nurturer. A nurturer, this came from the book, by the way, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. The best way to describe what a nurturer is to just describe what it's not. So, nature versus nurture. Okay, inserting myself here as I do. And I'm going to read directly from The Artist's Way, Week 2, Recovering a Sense of Identity chapter. And the description I'm going to give is going to help with really identifying who's actually there for you versus who is there for you only in their favor. In the book, she calls non-nurturers poisonous playmates. And she says, not surprisingly, the most poisonous playmates are just people, period, are people whose creativity is still blocked. Our recovery threatens them. And I want to note, before I keep going in this quote, the book does center on creativity, but you can completely replace the idea and the word of creativity for passions, life choices, habits, all the things you would want to do to live a fulfilling life. That is what you can replace with the idea of creativity. If they're having trouble with your recovery, with your journey, they are still getting a payoff from remaining blocked. Perhaps they still feel smug thinking about how much more creative and successful they could be than those who are out there doing it. Do not expect your blocked friends to applaud your recovery or your success. That's like expecting your best friends from the bar to celebrate your sobriety. Blocked friends may find your recovery disturbing. Your getting unblocked raises the unsettling possibility that they too could become unblocked and move into the authentic, creative life risks rather than bench-sitting cynicism. You cannot afford their well-meaning doubts right now. Their doubts will reactivate your own. There are certain people in your life that are going to be more a protective, motherly kind of figure. That is more of nature, somebody who kind of coddles you. So if you have friends or people that you surround yourself with that aren't nurturers, they tend to be somebody who's more judgmental, closed off to things that you might like or want to do because it doesn't align with them. And so, for example, let's say you have a friend who doesn't like tattoos, but you want to get tattoos. And you're like, I really want to get tattoos. I really want to get my first. But they're like, why would you get that? Like, that is so scary. What if you don't like your tattoo in the future? What if it heals badly? But they're projecting their opinions on you. They wouldn't do it themselves. They don't come at it from a perspective of you do you should do what you love. I might not agree with it, but I totally think that you should do XYZ. That's a small example. Another one could be, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to leave corporate and I'm going to try to get into the film industry and make movies. And you tell a friend who's in corporate and they're like, oh my God, like that is so terrifying. Are you sure? Like, are you ready? They are putting doubts into your head instead of coming from a perspective of maybe I don't want to do it, but you have the potential to, and I'm not going to stop you. And just because I have doubts in my head doesn't mean that you can't just go for it. That is a non-nurturer. People who will project their opinions of you, at the core of what it is that they feel threatened internally because they're not able to make the leap themselves. And so they believe that because they feel these certain things, everybody else has to feel that certain way and has to hold themselves back. And when you're trying to do your own thing, when you're trying to do things that a lot of the majority of people don't agree with or don't support, it's really, really hard to break away from that, especially when the closest people next to you are part of that majority and are voicing their opinions that they don't agree with it, because you want to feel like you belong. You want to feel like you have gained their acceptance and that they value you and they think that you're smart and they respect you and whatever. And when they're voicing their doubts and they're letting you know, like, maybe this isn't a good idea, you can't help but have it plant into your head. It is just that thing where it's like you can be so confident. You could be so sure of yourself, but the one time that someone lets out a sliver of a doubt, it just replays in your head and it just grows. It's like this freaking seed being planted in your mind. And it could have been this minuscule, but because it was said and done, now your brain just lets it grow and it just takes over. And you never want to add on to the doubt you already have. Like, we already have enough doubt in our heads. If you think, and if you are an overthinker like I am, you've thought about it all. You've thought about the good, the bad, all the things that could have gone wrong. And so you don't need anybody else to tell you and reaffirm that there is a huge possibility that things just go wrong, or that you're not going to be liked, or that you are really different. You might not fit in as well as you thought you did. And that should be fine. That should be okay. But because the closest people that you care about are voicing otherwise, it makes you doubt yourself. And so that's why you need the opposite of that, a nurturer, somebody who, regardless of how they would approach a situation, when it comes to you, they see your potential as you are, as you exist. They see that you could do it all, and they don't put doubt in your head, and they just say, yeah, like, you do it. And I just want to be a nurturer in general. Like, I don't even want to do it for certain people. I think if somebody wants to do something, I genuinely think that they should do it. They should have the faith in themselves to do whatever it is and prove their doubts wrong. Unfortunately, what we all have in common is that as humans, all we can base future projections off of is the past and the current present. And so if something hasn't happened yet, it's very, very difficult for us to believe it's coming in the future.
Did you know that you would get here where you are right now?
Oh, yeah. I told everything that's kind of happened, I've told people like 12 years ago. And people didn't expect it because they're looking at face value. Like, they don't know what I know. They don't know my full potential. Y'all don't know what I'm going to be doing in 3 years. I know what the fuck I'm going to be doing in 3 years. I know what I'm going to be doing in 6 months. But
Right.
Some people can only judge you based off what you've already done. So, like, when I would tell people, like, hey, I'm going to get a Grammy, and I'm saying this around the Goblin time, people are like, ooh, this nigga is tripping, right? But I'm like, oh, you guys don't know what I'm capable of and what I have planned for the next 4 years.
And so, of course, naturally, if it's never happened, you're going to be very doubtful. And that is just the nature of being human. That's how we think. So when somebody is doubtful of you, it's not because you can't do it. It's because all they can base you off of is what you've done in the past. And so if you're telling everyone, I'm going to get my act together, I'm going to get my shit together now, but every single moment up till this point, you've been the laziest person on this planet, of course no one's going to believe you. And of course people are going to raise their doubts about it. But that doesn't mean it's not possible. And I've talked about this before. Now I'm just preaching and talking about something completely different. But the next moment, right? So the present moment and then the next moment is completely separate from the past. There's no string tying you from the past to the next moment. Just because like 5 seconds ago you were a complete failure doesn't mean the next 5 seconds from now you have to be. You don't need to identify with your past self. You can just choose in the present moment to do otherwise. And then from there, keep choosing. And by choosing that first time to not be a lazy person, you aren't a lazy person. Change the whole pattern. And I think a nurturer realizes that you at any moment have the potential to do more. I think everyone should have somebody like that in their lives. You don't need just nurturers in your life. I have a lot of people who are not nurturers in my life. But in my mind, I know deep down who is the nurturer in my life versus who is not, regardless of how close they are to me, regardless of what I think of them, regardless of how successful or not. And just because somebody's not a nurturer doesn't mean that they don't have to be your closest friend. So it's really up to you, but I think that you should at least have one nurturer that you are constantly in contact with so that you have somebody that can reassure you and make the assurances and the good things instead of the doubts louder in your head. Yeah, and I say this because I don't want this video to be one of those self-help videos where it's like, because the 5 closest people are the people you're going to mostly resemble and are the people who are going to influence your lives most, which I truly believe. Even though I know that fact, I'm not out here trying to optimize my friendships. Like, it's really not that deep. I'm not trying to optimize everything in my life. I realize like that is not who I want to be, and I'm totally okay with being messy and acknowledging that I'm lazy sometimes and falling off track, and I yeah, I got to live a little, and I want to live a little. I don't want to be known for being somebody who's trying to perfect every part of her life. And friendships are one of those areas. I don't think that what makes a friendship worth it is that it is optimized and that it's the perfect person for you. I think what makes it special is that you guys both choose to grow together and try to deal with each other's flaws and quirks and things like that and accept them and love them. And I think that's all part of the fun and makes it really special, and that's what life is about. But like I said, that's why I'm taking a middle route and saying please, because all of you that are listening to my videos and have been here for a while, even if you're new here, I would love if you could all have your own nurturer, because it really changes the game. After I realized who those people were in my life, it made it really easy for me to figure out who I should go to when certain things come up. I feel like everyone knows generally who to go to for certain things in their life. Like if you have relationship problems, you go to the person that has been dating somebody for a long time and ask them for advice. In this similar way, when I have big ideas and I'm about to do something really risky and scary and I kind of feel crazy, I have my set of like right now 3 or 4 people that I will message and be like, I have this crazy idea. And they're just so good at being like, yeah, you totally can do this. If there's anyone that could do it, it would be you. If ever there's somebody who's a non-nurturer that is trying to bring me down, I counter it immediately by messaging a nurturer and being like, I need you to back me up right now and tell me that I'm not freaking insane. And so I think everyone needs that kind of person in their life. Other than that, though, not to really optimize, but just so that life is a little easier, if you have people who are really toxic and are just really degrading your well-being and your self-worth, get those people far away from you. It is so worth it to go through the suffering of confronting someone face to face and telling them, I think you're a shitty friend. You're just really not for me. Maybe you're for somebody else. I think we'd be better off as strangers. But thanks for all the memories. And that's truly what I've said in the past. I think I've said that to 3 people now. They killed me. I realized from those relationships that I do not like it when people limit me, when people tell me I can't do something, when people suffocate me and I feel like I can't live my own life and do my own thing. When that starts happening, I freak out. I feel a lot more insecure, and it creates this like weird dependency kind of relationship, which I don't like, and I had to let those friends go. Life's too short. I have more people I could be meeting. That's, I think, the biggest thing. I think that you just have to think, if you have somebody dragging you down, you could totally be meeting so many other people that could replace them, and they wouldn't drag you down. You have so many other people that you're missing out on because you're spending time with somebody who's taking all of your energy from you. Like, you're really missing out. It helps a lot to make a lot of decisions and weigh pros and cons when you think about what you're missing out on by choosing a certain decision. Yeah, I can't believe. Oh, God. I know they're not in my lives anymore. They're like so far away. It's been so long. But yeah, I had friends who would not let me hang out with certain people, who judged me for wearing certain things. They're like, why would you wear that? And I'm like, girl, leave me alone. Because I was somebody who's a people pleaser, I hated it when they were mad at me. So what they would use as a manipulation tactic was whenever I just wanted to be alone and do my own thing, they would get mad at me for wanting to do my own thing. And I would come crawling right back and I would be like, I am so sorry. Like, please, like, forgive me. I didn't mean to. And guys, it was so draining. I was in just a weird, toxic friendship relationship thing. After a while, I did that a bunch of times, and I started asking myself, is the problem me? Because the commonality between all these friendship breakups is me. And I was like, I think I am the problem. I am the problem. Hell yeah, I am the problem, actually. Because what I do is when I meet someone, I get so excited. Even if I notice certain weird things about them or that they could be toxic and problematic, I'm like, whatever. Like, it's not that deep. Like, you can be in my life. But then I let them get closer to me and I get closer to them. But with that being said, that means you spend more and more time with them and you become like more entangled. And it creates this like weird contract in a way. It's like an unsaid thing where it's like, you are my person, so you have to always be there for me. And I shouldn't have let them get close in the first place. And I just kept accepting these little toxic things that they would do, but I was like, it's okay, it's fine, it's fine. And before you know it, it becomes really big. So yes, I was the problem. I should have just like distanced myself from the beginning. That's something I still really need to do. I also am just a really analytical, reflective person. I'm not like 100% trying to optimize everything, like I've said, but yeah, I'm not okay with somebody being in my life that drags me down. And so I do things about it. Most people, I think, when this happens, they kind of just accept it and they're like, oh, they'll deal with it. But I don't want to deal with it. I want everyone around me to, for the most part, love and care about me and generally not drag me down. So I cut them off if I have a problem with them. And yeah, so I'm the problem and I'm okay with that. Anyways, moving on to the Hilo Buffalo, which is the good thing, weird thing, good thing, bad thing, weird thing that has happened. And I'm going to do this South Korea edition so that you guys are caught up on my trip to South Korea. And if you guys want to be even more caught up on it, I have my Instagram down below. You guys can follow me and it's so chill. Let's do Hilo Buffalo. This is completely unrelated to the actual topic of the episode. It's something I do every single episode. If you're new here, you would not know that. But if you are a returner, please comment down below your updates. Your guys' Hilo Buffaloes have been so good and they're so sweet. Thank you for sending me so many things about your life. What I love about everyone that has been watching my videos is that you guys are so genuine, and when you guys comment on my videos, it's not like superficial. You guys are sending me genuine messages and it's so cool. It's like I have a bunch of online friends and pen pals from all across the world. I have people in Turkey, Australia, South Korea, South America. It's just like you guys are everywhere and it's crazy. Let me tell you guys about South Korea. Okay, my high, which is my favorite thing in Korea, which I was so shocked about. I didn't know this was a thing in Korea, but they are so big on art. It's a huge part of their culture, and there's a lot of art villages and art areas. Makes me feel really happy that there's space in their economy, in their cities, where people are able to support themselves making art full time. And in specific, I really love, I'm gonna butcher this so bad, Gamcheon Art Village in Busan. It's this art village with 1,000,000 tiny little shops that are colorful. It's inspired by Little Prince. And you guys know I'm obsessed with Little Prince. I've like talked about it before and I've read it 7,000 times, and I have tattoo flash designs that are inspired by the Little Prince. And so when I got to the art village, I didn't know that was the case. I just knew this was a touristy place and I heard it had a lot of high ratings. And then when I got there, I was like, what is this place? And because I didn't have any expectations, everything just made me so excited and giddy, and I learned a lot more about it and how it is inspired by the Little Prince, the bad thing that happened in Korea. So when I travel with my family, I've traveled with them every single year. It is a thing we do. We love doing a big family trip every single year. I know exactly what to expect from each family member. I know what their quirks are. I know what they prefer. I know what they're like when they're traveling. And so when I'm planning my travels, I keep all those things in mind. For example, my grandma cannot walk very far and she hates walking far distances, and she also cannot walk very fast. So that's her little thing. She also does not like to eat food outside of Asian food or my brother is just a big foodie, and so all he really cares about is food. And so trying to plan around my family that has a million preferences and quirks is really stressful, and dealing with it during the trip, live time, constantly being surrounded by them is also really stressful. Don't get me wrong, I'm so grateful to be able to go on these trips and spend time with them, but it is a lot as the planner. And even then, my low is having to do with it, but thank God I didn't lose my mind this time because I knew what to expect. But it was the fact that even then, when I said bye to my family, I was so emotional. I was so sad to leave my family. I said bye to them from the gate. It was so cute. We were saying bye to each other because I flew from the same airport to New York and they flew to California. Our gates were right next to each other. And so my flight went first, and right before I got to the gate to scan my boarding pass, I had to say bye to everyone. And I literally couldn't. I hugged my mom, and this happens every time, and I cry. But this time it was just a lot of crying. And I was so surprised because I was really tired of that trip and just like all the little things that had happened. So I was like, it's going to be nice to be home in New York and take a break from all of it. But even then, I cried so much. I cried from the moment I hugged my mom all the way to my plane seat. So I sat down in my seat and I was just crying. And it was so awkward because every time I went up to a flight attendant to be sat down, to be guided, whatever it was, I was just like, I would just look them dead in the eye and be like, my seat's right here, or like, thank you, like handing them my boarding pass, and I would just be just letting the tears fall. Isn't that crazy that you can be just so frustrated with certain people, but just love and care about them so much that you just accept all their flaws and just like, you just love them so dearly. You know, that's what you want in your life with your friends and your family. You just love them as they are. The last is Buffalo, the weird thing that happened. This is so funny. I'm going to get my grandma canceled, but she is just so off the internet. She could care less about being canceled. Okay, that lady, even if you want to cancel her, she'd proudly stand by her words. As you guys know, if you guys have traditional Asian parents, they tend to be racist. And if you're not Asian, if you never experienced that before, fun fact, most Asian traditional relatives tend to be very racist. They bring their beliefs back from Asia, wherever it is they grew up. And so in Korea, my grandma, looking at everybody in Korea, assumed that because she looked like us, everyone was Chinese. And so every time we would go, and I'm not even exaggerating, every time we would go into a restaurant, every time we went into a taxi, she would try to talk to the taxi driver or the restaurant server in Chinese. She would be like speaking our language, trying to ask them for things, but then the people would be like, sorry, what? And there's this one point, this one guy was driving us. He didn't know my grandma was talking to him when she entered the taxi because she was speaking in Chinese. So he just assumed that she was talking to us. And then my brother and I were talking, and the entire time this taxi driver wasn't saying anything. And my brother and I speak to each other in English. My brother was telling me about how it's really common in Korea to give like beauty surgery as a gift for graduation. And the taxi driver, this is when we found out, knew how to speak English. So he responded and he was like, wow, I didn't even know that fact about my country, and I was born and raised here. I'm so surprised that you knew that about South Korea. And we were just shocked because the whole entire drive, and it's been like an hour into this drive, this guy didn't say anything while I was just talking to my brother in English. So he was listening to everything we were saying, and thank God we didn't say anything about this taxi driver in English. But yeah, he understood what we were saying, and my brother was like, yeah, like I just heard about it online. And then my grandma takes this as an opportunity to speak English and asks the taxi driver, "Are you Chinese?" And then the taxi driver clearly is not Chinese. He goes, "No, I don't think so." And that just put my grandma in her place. My grandma knows very, very little English. She's able to say small things like, "Are you Chinese?" And yeah, so she decided to ask the taxi driver, and clearly he was not Chinese. And it was just such an awkward situation that we had to deal with every single time we got into a taxi, went into a public space. My grandma's a very social butterfly, and so with the broken English, whatever languages that she knows, she will try to talk to somebody. She's that kind of girl. It was only a 2-week trip, so I never got used to it, and every single time I would cringe and just be embarrassed, but it's okay. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys like this messy episode. I will be back, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.